Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining another CA Test Data Manager Community Webcast. Today we're going to be discussing the latest release, that's CA TDM 4.4. On the phone today we have Wilfred Massaranaj. He is the TDM product owner. He's going to be going through some slides and also do a short demo for you guys on the call today. All lines are on mute, so if you have any questions as we're going through the call today, you can feel free to enter those into the Q&A box. You should see a Q&A box on the right panel at the bottom of your screen within the WebEx window. If you don't see it, there is a Q&A button at the top right you can press to expand that window. You can put all of your questions in there, and we'll get to them at the end of today's session. We'll also be opening up the phone lines at the end of today's session as well. So if you have any questions you'd rather ask over the phone, you can feel free to do that when we pause at the end. All right, I'm going to turn the call over to Wilfred now. Take it away, Wilfred.
Thank you. Hi all. My name is Wilfred Massaranaj, as Melanie has introduced. I am just going to talk quickly through the features that we are putting into TDM 4.4 and how we are building from TDM 4.3 and what our thoughts are behind why we did what we are implementing, and then move on to demoing the GDPR PII data profiling feature that we have in Test Data Manager 4.4 that came out in December. And then I'll open up for any questions you guys have, and we can then take it from there. So first one to talk through what is CA Test Data Manager, and I'm sure most of you already know about it. We had some challenges up to the last release as to how we went about implementing things in the Test Data Manager. There was more feature-based. There was no real end-to-end user flows. So that is something that we started looking at based on feedback we had from customers. So we needed to rethink what the challenges are that the customers face around lacking speed in the test data delivery and being a little bit clogged down in inefficiencies of traditional testing. So we needed to find ways to address the challenges with some specific use cases and user flows. And we then started focusing on those specific areas. So we went about trying to bring all the various tools that we have within test data management, like masking, subsetting, find and reserve, VTDM, synthetic data gen, all of that into one simple flow that people can then take advantage of, so helping them to speed up on that creation of their test data. Trying to create a friendly portal, administrator and tester friendly. Testers wanted a simple interface. Administrators need something in one location for them to be able to manage it. So being able to locate, generate, and manage all that test data. So TDM portal is evolving slowly, as you will see, into that friendly portal. Compliance tools around PII data discovery that now started playing up a bigger role in the space as we are coming close to the deadline for GDPR compliance and other countries obviously implementing their own versions of data protection. It's becoming more and more of an important part within test data management as well. And then being able to deliver all these within the agile testing scope. So it didn't make sense for customers to wait for 6 to 7 weeks to get their test data. So we needed to find ways and processes to speed it up so we can deliver within their normal delivery process their test data that they need. So when we took that back into Test Data Manager, obviously we are looking at, as we say, test data at the speed of agile, identifying what test data exists, and then being able to generate in some way the missing bits of that data, whether you create it synthetically, whether you create it via masking, whether you distribute it via virtual implementations like VTDM, and making sure that they are compliant to data security regulations, whatever impacts you in your country. For Europe, obviously, GDPR being one of the critical drivers, but there are other regulations for various countries. So with that in mind, then the next step for us was to look at who are the personas who are involved with TDM and what is it that they actually want from TDM. So we discussed our new directions, obviously, with some directors of QA who are looking for the right test data for their team. They wanted make their life easier. They want to make the testers' life easier, the developers' life easier. So they're looking for a fast way to access for this test data. You have compliance directors who are looking for data security compliance across all of the test data. There's no PII information in their test data, and all of that is being managed in single location so they can easily get an overview of that. Test data engineers obviously trying to figure out what are the patterns, what are the models they need to create to bring all of that together, and Ops and DBA obviously being the production data gatekeepers. They are looking for more information into what is the data that the test data engineers need, that they need to deliver to test, and how do I make the job easier for me to identify this. So these are 4 different personas that we then started looking at, and that basically drove our implementation. So with that in mind, when we started with Test Data Manager 4.4, we started focusing first on data profiling, GDPR, PII data profiling. It can also be used outside GDPR. GDPR is just an implementation support that we provide. We focused a little bit more on GDPR on this feature as we are going through, and you will see, because of their reporting and the detailed capabilities they're asking for, the tracking that is required to be GDPR supportive. We focused a little bit more on GDPR, but the data profiling that we provide can be used for any data protection profiling that you want to do. We extended some of the work in VTDM to bring in new data sources. We supported turnkey. I'll talk about it a little bit later further down, and then also have telemetry support in Test Data Manager. If you want more details, there's a link on the community page, and I know Melanie will put this presentation in PDF format up there, but go to the revamped community page. We have a What's New in 4.4 posted up there. If you have questions, you can post under it, or feel free to reach out to the product team that is online at the moment as well, so we'll be able to answer that. So starting with the first one, GDPR and PII profiling. So let's take that because that's the biggest feature that we spend time on because that's critical for us. So why we wanted to look at GDPR and PII profiling as one of the features is you can hear in the news, you hear about Yahoo account leaks, you can hear about the Equifax issues, you hear about the law issues. Everyone has some form of issues, and a lot of the time it's around test data. People have copied some data over to some other system and forgot that it had PII information. It becomes a big issue PR-wise. It becomes an issue for your customers to trust you afterwards with your PII data. Now, if you lose this data with GDPR coming into play, fines become huge as well. So there's a lot of impact in actually having these data breaches, and we needed to find a way to manage this for our customers. Data privacy obviously have some very strict challenges. As I mentioned, heavy penalties, and there are some strict data protection regulations coming on board. Personal data is being expanded. What does personal data mean? As at the beginning, it was just name, email address, phone number. Now you're going into MAC addresses, IP addresses. A lot of that stuff is being now added into the personal data. The fact that combinations of data can be PII rather than just individual data, that also then starts playing a bigger role within what we need to do. We needed to find a way to restrict what systems have access to the data and make sure there's some reporting around it as well, so people can easily pull reporting, show to external auditors, internal auditors, how all of this data protection is integral part of test data management. The solution that we thought of is what we actually implemented in 4.4. You can see that it has become a critical part of test data management tool, the PII profiling and understanding your data and being able to mask based on it. It's becoming a critical part of your TDM implementation. I'm not going to talk through line by line through how to use the feature. So if you are really interested in it, there is a 2-page reference guide that comes as part of the solutions workbench. You can talk to your sales guys, the pre-sales guys, they will have access to it. They can talk you through it. If you're interested in a very detailed demo of the PII data profiling, there's a YouTube video as well. You can watch it anytime you want. That's done by our SWAT team. They have gone through and done some demos around it, so feel free to do that. You can also go to our DocOps pages on understanding more of the use cases. So the DocOps pages have also changed from previous implementations where it was more instructions, and now we are moving it more over into use case driven, so you can flow through as to this is what I want to do and how do I go about it. So that should also help you to build up your knowledge around how to use TDM. I want to do a quick demo at this point. So I'm going to focus at the moment on data profiling so that we can go through in a little bit more detail. Love to do all of them, but don't have time. So data profiling in itself has three different personas that are involved in it. So data profiling is all about identifying PII. PII can be different for different applications, different projects, different contexts. Each area is a different set of PII. There will be SMEs, or in our case here, I call them data approver as a login. You can see up here on the top right. Hold on, I need to share my screen. All right, you should be able to see now. So the data approver, if you see on the top right here, called data approver, so they are the SMEs for specific areas. They understand the application that's under test. They understand what data structures and what constitutes PII. So they will have some form of say in the whole process. So if I install TDM, you have your landing page as always. You can see the video around the YouTube video I mentioned. It's also linked directly into the tool as well, so you can directly from there. You can see a simple high-level process that we have put in place so you can understand what the next steps need to be. So if I install it, I'll go into setup, so I can select what data sources I want to profile. So what are the connection profiles that I want to use? In my case, I have few of them. I'll use the AdventureWorks DB for now, the easiest one, first one on the list. You can select multiple if you wanted to. I don't have time to run through all of them, so I want to do the demo very quickly. So you can select what classifier packs you want. Classifier packs are a way to define what you think in your corporation or in your country or in your region you think constitutes PII. Because health insurance may have a different set of definition of PII to medical corporations, so we could not get everyone's definition in the place. So what we created is an extendable definition that you as a customer can create and add to TDM. So you can define your own PII data. What we have provided is a very good starting point for various countries for now, randomly picked up few countries. You can extend it, you can delete it as an administrator. So if I log in as an administrator, I can show you on this tab. You can see under the configuration, you have classifiers. That gives you access to import new classifiers. They are simple JSON files. You can find on the DocOps page how to create those JSON files. And if you don't want some of them, you can always choose to delete some of them, and you can remove them or add them again, so whatever you want. For now, I'll leave it in there for demo purposes, but you can basically create your own classifiers that constitute PII. So if you come to, hold on, let me just get out of Outlook, else it'll just start disturbing. So once you come to here, you can see data profiling. You can select your data sources. You can select what classifier packs you want to apply. You can hit next, obviously. Then you have the ability to either execute your job immediately or schedule, like all the time we have provided within Portal. You are then able to run the job. So job submission is as before with TDM Portal. You submit a background task. You can carry on doing whatever you want. If you clicked on it, you can see it was running. I was a bit too quick. It was running. Now it's completed state. So there's previous one as well if you want to see. Once the job has completed, you can see on the top right-hand side, it goes into ready for review state. So after TDE, I execute the job. Now I can go and review the job. It was critical for us when you're reviewing PII data. It's a laborious, long, time-consuming task. You have to go table by table, make sure that everything is fine, everything is acceptable before you sign it off. So we wanted to make that experience a little bit better than someone sitting in front of tables and going line by line through it. So what we created and what we are still doing, and we are evolving this as we are going forward, is a simple heat map. So you can see based on tags that have been identified to show where PII data exists, where is the higher risk tables. In this case, for example, there are not very high risk. You only see low risk and very low risk. It's built on number of tags it has discovered, so it shows you where it is. You can obviously hover over it, you can see the details, and you can see what tags have been used. But if you wanted to go more into detail, you can click on one of those boxes. It gives you the ability to investigate further. So you can click on investigate. It takes you further into the list. You can go through column name by column name and see if they are or not. Let's say, for example, here we have seen that this table has no PII data because these are all random names. But let's say, for argument's sake, package name is PII in your corporation, but the system did not discover it. You can always go in and add a tag and call it whatever you want, name as a tag reason. This is PII. You give it a reason. It will tag it for you, so you can manually add tags if the system didn't auto-discover it. You can, if you think this is going to happen a lot of the time, then you can create your own JSON file, a classifier, add it to your list. So next time you run it, it will automatically discover that as a name tag because in your corporation, that's for you, it's critical. If you noticed, originally when I clicked on it, it was a low risk green, but because I added a tag, it moves higher up on the risk because as you are having more and more PII, there's more risk to that table being critical for you to process. You can quickly choose to say, if you think it is not PII, so if I go back to heat map and say, all right, I want to discover this one, I will investigate it and say, okay, I agree with all of this is not PII, so I can quickly mark it as not PII, so you are not bothered later with it. So it's a quick way for you to just have it out of the way. So you can see the table I just marked as not PII is tagged as not PII and it's outside confirmed. So as a TDE, yes, it's going to be some manual work you need to do to dig into it, but with this tool, it will help you to dig into it easier. So you have to go table by table and confirm that everything that has been found there is correct. You can make your changes, and then you can confirm all the tables, and you can scroll through table by table in this way. Or you can go back each time to heat map if you like to work with the heat map, and you can do heat map and then click into investigate and confirm. But for me, this makes sense, so I went with this. It's up to you how you want to use it. So if you close at any time, you can see which ones have been confirmed, which ones have not been confirmed. If at some point you think, oh, I wasn't sure why that was not PII or that was PII, you can always go back, click on it, click on investigate, it takes you to the list, and you say, oh, I do not know why this was chosen, so you can click at random row. It will be able to pull a random row of data from your data source to show you this is the data that drove it, and you can see we have highlighted which column was matched as a tag in that table. If you wanted to see more data, you can click on more. It will give you 10 rows of the data. It's currently fixed to 10 rows, but we are finding some ways to customize it in future releases. But in this 4.4 release, it's fixed to 10 rows. So you can get real data from your original source to see what decision drove. And if you wanted to perhaps understand why something else was not marked, you can view that data before you tag it as PII. So if I go back and carry on and do all of them, so once you do all of them as a TDE, obviously you have to go through all the tables and confirm. It is a lot of manual work that you need to do. We also are working on some way to automate that. If you think that there are tables that you already know have not PII, you're trying to find ways to actually implement that. But this is the state once you have reviewed all of it, what you see. So every table has been reviewed by the TDE. He understands that he thinks, in his opinion, he's correctly identified and tagged and removed any false tags, false positives have been cleared out. So all of that is done. You're able to then create a report. As a TDE, obviously, I can preview the report myself. So I can download that report to myself. The report can be pretty big. In this case, only 27 pages. The report is very detailed, so it goes through job IDs, when it was signed off, if it was signed off. This has not yet happened, so that's why it's marked as draft. You can see the job name. You can see when the job scan was initiated, when it was completed. You can see what connection profiles were used. You can see what classifiers were used to actually scan against. You can see a screenshot of that heat map before you started verifying it, and then it goes through line by line and says who are the people who signed it off. So my name is basically the one that I signed off. You just saw me signing it off. You can see the column names. You can see the tags that were added. If I remove the tag or if I added a tag, you will be able to see it in here. For example, here I added a tag with the reason, and you can see it gets entered in there. So we go through in a very detailed manner in a PDF file so that you can then pull that as a report and keep it for future use. So now as a TDE, I've reviewed, I profiled, I reviewed, I pulled a report. I can see I am good with that, I am fine with that, but I want the SMEs to go and have a view of it as well. I am not the expert, the SME is the expert for the app. So I can submit the report for sign-off. So once I submit the report, if I log in as a SME, in my case I'm called data approver. If I refresh this, you will see the third one that was just submitted. So you can see the one I just submitted come back in again. I can click on it. I am now a reviewer, so I can also download that same report. I can review it. So I can download that. I, as a data approver, can review that report. And I think, yep, I am good with that as well. All agreed, so I can sign off. I can give it a all approved. I can give it a reason. So you can see how many sign-offs. You can have multiple sign-offs. So you can log in as a data profiler sign-off, and you can have a data approver sign-off. So once all of that is signed off, I, as a TDE, then be able to pull those reports directly from here. So as a TDE, I can go and say, okay, here are the example of previous reports that were given. We give you 3 different levels of report. The level of detail is different between them. If you want more details around what the differences are, on the top of page, we go through exactly what is not included in each of them, so you can see that. An executive summary, obviously, is a very high-level report that we provide, not very detailed, but it gives you that very high-level 2-page document that tells you this is your heat map, these are the scans that were executed, and here's a quick table and view of where the tags are and what tags were identified. So we provide different ways to pull reports, and you can have 3 different levels of report. So that's pretty much it on the data profiling demo I wanted to quickly do. And as I said, on our community space, there's a link, plus on YouTube you can go and have a link directly there as well. A very detailed demo of the data profiling. I'm going to just carry on for now, and then if you have questions, then we can come back to individual questions at that point. So that's pretty much it for data profiling. We are evolving what you have seen. We have given this to a lot of the customers. We have gone through our design partner program with various customers. They have provided a lot of feedback. A lot of that forms our backlog at the moment. So if any of you are interested and you think there are some features that you're looking for, you want to pick this up, feel free to leave a comment in communities page or feel free to reach out. It will be nice to have that customer-driven implementation. That's what we are looking for all the time. And I know there are already, we are working on some enhancements, but that's not included at the moment in this GA. So the next release will see some further enhancements to the profiling and modeling services that we are doing. So with that in mind, if I go to the next one, what else is included in 4.4? So as I mentioned earlier on, we are extending the support for VTDM. VTDM being virtualizing your data source. So a tester can have his own database independent of anyone else. So they have access to the full test data that's on the database. In previous releases, we supported Oracle 11G. Now with 4.4, we support Oracle 12C in all its flavors. So all of them will be able to be virtualized. SAP support we provide now via Turnkey. So Turnkey has provided a solution that integrates with SAP and provides a TDM solution there. Our drive there is to work with Turnkey to get that in place, but again, there will be some postings coming out of Turnkey as well into communities page where we explain how that whole integration works, that we are working with Turnkey on, and you will see that shortly in the communities page. And the third one we have is telemetry. So we want to build products, as I say, and focus on features that customers are actually using. So telemetry becomes very critical for us to see which are the features that customers are using, and based on that we can spend more time focusing on where they have issues and make that better, rather than us spending time on something and the customers are spending time on a completely different area. We are not solving the customer's frustration with the product. We are not solving the customer's needs in the product. What we want to do is use telemetry, obviously anonymous. We do not want to see with what data you are using or anything. We are looking at what processes you're going through, what are you clicking on, what are you looking at, where do you spend most of your time, and then being able to have an intelligent conversation around it to say, do we need to improve the process, do we need to improve something there, or do we need to implement some new features in that area? So this is how we are using telemetry starting with 4.4. There are a couple more items I want to call out on. So there are a couple of data privacy webcasts coming up. It will be worth definitely for you guys to go and have a look at it as well. So that's just to call out. And that's pretty much it from my side. I see a question. It says, what's the roadmap for DataMaker TDM portal integration? That's a great question. So that's my task for this quarter, to come up with a plan to how we integrate DataMaker TDM portal. So I want to take a step back. So when we talk about integration between DataMaker and TDM portal, we understand the concepts of what exists in DataMaker. It makes sense, a lot of the stuff there. We cannot directly integrate both of them because DataMaker it was good and it's still useful, but it's still in a 32-bit world and we are struggling to maintain that while we are moving portal. So what we want to do is we're going to look at concepts and ideas that exist in portal, and we're going to look at concepts and ideas that exist in DataMaker and see which are the concepts that we can move into portal. So the first one was profiling. You may have all seen data profiling in DataMaker. It was very limited, but it was an idea and a concept that was very useful for customers, so we will move that over. So what we are doing is, as we are going over the next few quarters, what we do is we look at each and every capability that exists and see if it makes sense to move it into Portal, not directly copy and paste it over, but trying to evolve that into something that's usable. Oh, removing, so there's another question. What's the plan for removing license required for ARV? That is still in discussion with the ARV team, whether we create something, a light version of ARV and integrate that with TDM, or whether we provide a direct interface, something that we can use without licenses. So it's a known item. We are still looking at that, but there are currently no confirmed plans on how we're going to move forward with that. Didn't understand what you mean by light test matching with variable usage, but perhaps we can take that offline and then have a talk on that.
Okay, and I just wanted to let you guys know at this point, if you'd like to ask a verbal question, you can do so over the phone. You would need to unmute your line. You can click #6 on your telephone keypad to do that. And Felipe has come back and clarified that he's speaking about the data maker and TDM portal integration when he talks about test matching with variable usage.
Yeah. So yes, it'll be similar to that, yes. I don't want to be similar to that. So I know in the past we have, if you take object registrations as an example, so variable usage is one, but if you take object registrations, we are at the moment reviewing that for future PI on how to actually make that different. We took object registration in Data Maker and copied that same process into Portal. Because at the moment, as a user for TDM Portal, you have to add your connection profiles and then start registering tables that you want to use. What we are looking at, that registration process should not be a customer interactive action. It should happen in the background as and when needed. It should be absolutely transparent to the user. So we need to look at bits and bobs there and see how we make the experience easier rather than just copying functionality across.
Any other questions, guys? Just a reminder, we're taking them in the Q&A box that's in the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or over the phone, and you can click #6 if you'd like to ask a verbal question. I'm sorry, Wilfred, were you going to say something?
No, I was going to say the same thing as you.
Okay, good. Just give it like 1 or 2 more minutes. Okay, we have another question. As you were planning to move all required functionality to Portal from Data Maker?
At the moment, yes. So Portal looks like the one that we want to focus on. It's 64-bit, it's easily manageable, it's easily distributable within customer databases, customer environments. So it makes sense for us to ramp up on Portal and slowly start taking features from Data Maker over. Portal also has the ability not to be Windows specific, whereas Data Maker you need a Windows machine, you need a Windows server. We are trying to evolve Portal away from Windows, trying to be a little bit more flexible with that. So it makes sense, yes, for us to then move towards Portal. That's what we are looking at the moment.
And Prince has an additional question. Are you planning to make Data Maker obsolete then?
Are we planning to make Data Maker obsolete? Yes and no. I do not know at the moment. So I'm thinking yes, at some point we're going to have moved capabilities that everyone uses into Portal, and therefore Data Maker eventually will declare end of life, end of service, and it'll go away at some point. But it cannot happen without every customer being able to use their capabilities within Portal. So until that is in place, no, but yes, at some point we will.
Okay, last call for questions, guys. Okay. If there are no more questions, I think we'll wrap up for today. Wilfred, did you have anything else you wanted to say or present?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay, great. So in that case, we'll close out for today. I'm putting a poll out into the WebEx. If you guys could please let us know what you thought of the webcast topic today. We like to take your feedback when planning out future sessions and see what you thought of each of the presentations that we've given. In addition to that, we do have a few more upcoming webcasts for TDM. You can check out the brand new CA Test Data Manager community for that. TDM was recently moved out of the dev test community and into its own space, so it now exists on its own. If you haven't gone and followed that community, just search CA Test Data Manager in the search bar in your communities and click follow at the top of that community, and you'll be updated on all of the events and everything else coming up. The upcoming events are on January 24th. We have a presentation on TDM LDAP, and then on January 30th, we have an Ask CA. It's formerly known as Office Hours, and it's just a live chat with the CA TDM technical team where you can ask any questions you have about the product. Okay, so that's all for today. We will be posting the recording and the slides and the Q&A transcript from today's sessions to the communities later today, so keep an eye out for that as well. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Wilfred, for a great presentation, and I hope everyone has a great day. We'll see you out in the communities. Thank you.
Thank you.